Schizophrenia is a really important topic that we talk about in abnormal psychology. We hear a lot about schizophrenia, and a lot of people are diagnosed with schizophrenia. So we're going to make this a separate section, a separate test. We want to break schizophrenia apart and talk to you a little bit about what it's not and then what it is. A lot of times we hear the word schizophrenia, and sometimes we think that's a personality disorder where we have several different personalities. But schizophrenia is actually not under that category of a dissociative identity disorder. A dissociative identity disorder is where somebody has several different personalities, and they live within all those different personalities. But that's actually not what schizophrenia actually is. It may be used that, we may see that, and we'll explain that a little bit later, but it's not actually identified as a dissociative identity disorder. Instead, schizophrenia is actually a split from reality. So in abnormal psychology, we're going to have lots of things that happen out there in life. Remember, we have genetics and we have environment. So when those things have problems, then reality might not be good, and we might literally have a split from reality. I've had opportunities to work with people that have schizophrenia. I've been friends with people that have schizophrenia, and once I understand which subtype of schizophrenia they have, then I begin to understand that person a little bit. So let's talk about, there's different subtypes of schizophrenia. So the first one, let's write them all down first of all. There's paranoid, okay? Paranoid, this is delusions of grandeur, where we see things bigger than they really are. Catatonic, that is non-reaction to environment. Disorganized, that's disorganized speech or flattened emotions. And then we have undifferentiated, which is varied symptoms. And then we have over on the end over there, we have residual, that's mild symptoms in remission. So once again, there's 5 different subtypes of schizophrenia. They're all very real. They're all very they're very present. Now, so if somebody says that I'm schizophrenic, or I have schizophrenia, or I've been identified, then we go to the next step and we say, which subtype do we have? So let's go back and look at those a little bit. So paranoid, it's kind of like the word sounds. If I'm paranoid about something, then the definition fits. It's delusions of grandeur. If I'm paranoid of spiders, grandeur means bigger. It's the Spanish word grandiose, meaning bigger. So if I'm paranoid of spiders, then I see more spiders, or I think the spiders are bigger. Oftentimes, paranoid schizophrenia has hallucinations where they actually sometimes see things that aren't even there, because in their mind they're bigger than life. So paranoia, a paranoid schizophrenic is somebody that, once again, what is schizophrenia? It's a split from reality. So if we're paranoid schizophrenic, then we see things beyond the reality. Okay? So once again, delusions of grandeur, we can take whatever we have and magnify it, and that can be the problem. So it doesn't have to be an object like a spider or a snake or something like that. It could be that we're worried about a particular thing, like we're worried that somebody doesn't like us because we're whatever, fill in the blank. So if that's the case, then we're seeing that all around. I knew a guy one time that said to me, and once again, all the names have been changed to protect to hide the identity of the person. But I had a guy tell me one time, and I knew this guy was a little bit, I thought he might be schizophrenic, paranoid, but he told me, he said, you've got to be really careful when you go to the post office, because they've got a camera in each of those boxes to watch you. And then he says, but that's not it. When you go downtown, he says, then the lights and the street lights, there's cameras, and he said there's people monitoring so they know what you're doing all the time. Well, first of all, I don't know about you, but I'm not doing anything important enough that anybody would want to monitor. But once again, once somebody is schizophrenic, what is it? It's a split from reality. So we're not going to use logic. So anything we're paranoid, if we think somebody's watching us or whatever, then what's the key word? Grander. It's going to be bigger, okay? So our mind's going to take off and go bigger. So paranoid, schizophrenia, delusions of grandeur. Catatonic, okay? It's kind of interesting because if you think about a cat, what does a cat do? I don't know, maybe you have a real active cat that goes all the time, but a cat can sit and lay, and you can be like, hey, here, kitty, let's play with the cat and all this stuff, and that cat can just sit, and that cat can just ignore you however it wants to ignore you. And when we say catatonic, it's non-reaction to environment. So I kind of think of that cat, that's like, you're like, you want to play, you want to do this, and that cat just kind of sits and looks at you. Or there's a dog in a room, and the cat just kind of sits and dares it to chase it by doing nothing. So once again, that's an important type of schizophrenia because what are we trying to, it's a split from reality. So if the environment is causing this, this problem within a system, okay, then a good way to do it is just to ignore the environment. So this person may come across as, when we say non-reaction to environment and we say catatonic, okay, the term catatonic also means still and non-moving. If somebody is, the medical term for catatonic is somebody that's basically in shock, and basically the person doesn't move at all. Okay, one step above comatose might be catatonic. So once again, so non-reaction to environment. So if a bunch of bad things are happening around you, okay, how might you split from reality? Well, you might not respond to those things. That actually might be a good defense. Okay, so catatonic is just totally non-reaction to environment. And then the third one that we have is disorganized, and this is disorganized speech or flattened emotions. Now, what do we mean by disorganized speech, and where does this come from in terms of schizophrenia? Well, once again, I keep saying this with each one of these. Okay, it's a split from reality. Okay, so somebody that has disorganized speech is going to change words around a little bit, and they might not make a lot of sense. So an example, one of the videos that I looked at recently when we were studying schizophrenia, I looked at somebody, and we looked at all these different ones. We'll look at some videos in this class a little bit later on some of these, and so you may see this example. But the disorganized speech might be somebody who does this. They begin to talk, and it's almost like they're saying the words themselves, but not talking to somebody else. Okay, so yeah, well, and this, and then yeah, oh, and so they don't really make sense, and it's really disorganized speech. Now, what's going on in the mind? Well, there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it than just what you hear in the disorganized speech. What we have here is disorganized speech or flattened emotions. So what is speech? Speech is a reaction to what? The environment. Okay, so we have to have some kind of stimuli before we speak. So for example, whatever environmental thing we have comes in, then that goes to our brain. We have an association, and then we talk. Okay, so if you were to say to me something, whatever, fill in the blank. Okay, whatever it is. Hey, did you see so and so the other day? Then my mind's going to go to that so and so, and I'm going to have an association to that person. And then I'm going to have association to what you said. Yeah, did you see that, did you see that coat they were wearing? And so I'm going to go and I'm going to associate coat, and I'm going to associate that person, and I'm going to understand what you're saying, and then that stimuli is going to say something back to you. So what are we doing here? When we have disorganized speech, we're doing something really simple. We're escaping from reality, and we're going to take this, whatever the stimulation was, whatever the input was, we're gonna not associate it with something. Okay, we're gonna come in, and whatever the stimulus was, I see something, so I'm gonna start to make an association, but that association might not be good. That association might bring sadness, we've got to understand, sometimes people that have schizophrenia have had something really bad happen to them. So when they go to that association, then it shuts it off and it's blank, and they go and there's no association, and they start to say, yeah, it was really, and there's nothing there. So once again, what happens is in disorganized, where we have disorganized speech, is when we go to that part of the brain that has association, we come across a block, and there's something in that block that says, I don't want to go there. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that thought. I mean, you see, just a rough example. Your house burns down. We're going to go. Hey, we're going to go grand, or here we're going to go big, or go home. Your house burns down. It's awful. Somebody dies in the house or something. And then all of a sudden, somebody's talking about a fire, and your first association of fire is you see this awful event happening, and you go to that, and the mind has blocked that deal. And so whenever they're talking about fire, you're like, yeah, well, it's because you have nothing. The association's not there. You've blocked that association. So the more things we've blocked, the more disorganized schizophrenic we have, because what's the other one? Flattened emotions. Okay? Flattened emotions. Mad, sad, glad. Okay? So what if something makes us extremely mad, okay, and it's really upsetting, then whenever we deal with that emotion, then whenever we go to that association, boom, we blocked it, and it's not there. So all of a sudden, we kind of become numb to the world. Not catatonic, not totally non-reaction, but remember, disorganized is where we go to an association, and when we go to that association in our brain, because how do we work? We have something come in from the environment. Okay, we have a stimulus coming from the environment, and our reaction is go to the brain. Go to the association, then go to the Baroque's region. If you took Psychology 101, go to the Baroque's, and then the Baroque's takes that, organizes that into speech, and here we go. So all of a sudden, I'm talking, I'm going, everything's good, and all of a sudden I go to that association there, and nothing's there, and I just draw, and I got nothing. So it's important that we realize with disorganized speech, it doesn't mean that the person is non-intelligent. As a matter of fact, most schizophrenic people are actually very intelligent people. But what's happened is somehow we have an escape from reality. Now, in undifferentiated, now this is kind of interesting, because then we have varied symptoms. What kind of varied symptoms? All of these. Wow. So a person might have some paranoid, they might have some catatonic, they might have some disorganized. That's undifferentiated. They might have a combination of all three of those. So somebody that has this, once again, pretty serious form of schizophrenia, pretty difficult to react in the regular world. Now, the last one is residual. Residual is really good. The word residual in the English language means leaving behind a little bit. Okay, we have a residual. I teach chemistry, so a lot of times we have chemical residuals, a little bit of the chemical still left. Okay, all right. So this is what residual means: mild symptoms in remission. So right now, if somebody is residual schizophrenic, okay, then you probably wouldn't even know. You probably wouldn't even know that they have schizophrenia, because we have some very mild symptoms, but we're in remission. We're coming out of this schizophrenic. We're dealing with this. We're getting better. So once again, here we go. We could have a paranoia that we're getting over and be residual, and then every once in a while it's a problem, but it's mild. So once again, those are the five types of the five subtypes of schizophrenia. Remember for it to be an abnormal form of psychology here, an abnormal handicap, we've got to experience this every day for at least 30 days. Wow. So can you imagine that? Okay, dealing with these things. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about schizophrenia. It will come up in our discussion again. I do want you to understand that there's 5 different types of schizophrenia. You will run across a large population of people in the world have schizophrenia. And I want you to right away, whenever you run across somebody with schizophrenia, I want you to not be scared of that person. I want you to think to yourself, I want you to think that's an escape from reality. There's some reason that's caused that. That's the psychology behind it. And then I want you to think which one of these it has, so that you can avoid those particular associations with this person as you relate to them. So once again, pretty good take on schizophrenia. We're going to have a whole test on schizophrenia. It won't be a long test, but we really need you to know schizophrenia. So we'll see you on the next video.